Well, Sanders won in West Virginia not only with support from his usual groups like independents and young voters, he also picked up some of Clinton's usual supporters. Take a look at this. According to Fox News exit polling across the state, Bernie Sanders won the majority of independents, 58%, to Hillary Clinton's 22%. He also swept young voters with 70% of the vote. Let's talk about these results with Jamie Weinstein, senior editor for the Daily Caller, and James Hohmann, national political correspondent for the Washington Post. It is always said, James, that you have to win independents if you want to win the presidency. Now, this is one state, but if Hillary Clinton gets clobbered by Bernie Sanders among independents, what does that say about her prospective candidacy?
John, it shows that working class whites are not ready for Hillary Clinton. She has a very real problem. It is very notable. You know, people think of Bernie Sanders as this socialist from Vermont, and he won the majority of self-identified conservative Democrats in the primary yesterday. I think that speaks to the problem that Hillary really has. If you look at the map, Donald Trump has just romped in Appalachia, and that's part of his calculus for why it's going to be a competitive general election. He can do well in places like West Virginia, which won't be in play in the general, Western Pennsylvania, Kentucky is off the map. And part of that is because Hillary Clinton has a real perception problem with these independent voters.
It is that time in the calendar, Jamie, when the parties are supposed to have selected their nominees, and the nominees start turning their attention on each other. We heard Hillary Clinton in that piece of sound from just a second ago talking about my opponent, not referring to Donald Trump, talking about Bernie Sanders. This is a real problem for her, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no question that she has to continue on and fight this race, even though she thinks that, you know, he has no path to the nomination. Now, I'll say that I do think Bernie has a path to the nomination. It's called a Hillary Clinton indictment. If something like that happens, maybe he can have a shot. But Hillary Clinton is forced to continue on, charging on, when, you know, Bernie Sanders is basically out of luck to try to win this nomination. But she has not been able to focus and turn her attention to the general election nominee like Donald Trump in the same way Trump has been able to turn his attention to Hillary Clinton. There
were a couple of other items in the exit poll that caught our eye, James, and I want to mention these to you. Bernie Sanders edged Hillary Clinton among seniors, 47 to 45%. And in the past, women have supported Hillary Clinton in every state except Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home state. Until now, Sanders got 50% of the female vote in West Virginia. Hillary Clinton got 38%. Again, it's one state, and she was expected to have problems in West Virginia. But that's a real, well, a potential sign of trouble.
Yeah, well, John, what I think it shows is that Bernie is tapping into disaffection and frustration with the status quo, with Washington, with the establishment in both parties. I think a lot of people who are voting for Bernie Sanders aren't voting for him because he's liberal. I think they're voting for him because they want to blow up Washington. They want to take on the system. And, you know, they see Hillary Clinton as the status quo candidate. And I think that is what happened in West Virginia. But by the way, Bernie's also won in a lot of states that are also pretty conservative. He won in Oklahoma, which, you know, is another state where only 1 in 5 of the Democratic voters in the Fox exit poll describe themselves as very liberal, which is the same number as describe themselves as very liberal in West Virginia.
Jamie, if you agree with James' description of disaffection among voters, is that what's driving the Donald Trump candidacy? He obviously won in both states.
Well, I absolutely agree. That's what it seems. It seems like Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders supporters, voters have this attitude they want to burn down Washington. I'll be interesting to see if that is actually the case when you look at what happens in the Senate and House races this year. You know, traditionally, 95% of House members are reelected incumbents. 80 to 90% of Senate members are reelected as incumbents. If people really want to burn down Washington, will they start throwing out their House members who have been there for so long? I'm skeptical of that, but the numbers seem to suggest there is some disaffection on the national level.
Yeah, but James, it's often the case that, you know, voters out there do not like Congress, don't approve of the job Congress is doing, but they always seem to like their local congressman or woman.
Yeah,
exactly.
Here's the thing. I think I think most people aren't as angry as we sort of assume. I think that there's a lot of anger and frustration out there. Most people are frustrated. They wouldn't necessarily describe themselves as angry. But if you look at a state like West Virginia, a lot of people there have been left behind. And I think here in Washington, a lot of the pundits that I talk to every day, as part of my job, don't know how much people are hurting and how much they're struggling. Life expectancies are going down. Wages are stagnant. Opportunities for upward mobility aren't there in places like West Virginia. And people are registering their frustration. Again, Hillary Clinton is perceived as the status quo candidate. I think both Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders have tapped into this feeling that the system, the status quo, isn't working for people, and they want things to change. And for some people, maybe Donald Trump, they don't like a lot of things about him, but they see him as the guy who can take on the status quo.
Jamie, is it, in your view, is it anger at, the federal government writ large, or is it the Obama administration?
Well, it's hard to say, and it's hard to say to the extent that this anger is actually what's driving these things. It looks like that in the polls, but could it also be the personality of Donald Trump? Someone who reaches to them as kind of this strongman effect, saying that if you just trust me, I'll make all your problems go away, no matter how serious or small that they are. So I'm every day I'm changing my opinion whether this is an issue-based revolution or a personality-based revolution in the form of Donald Trump.
It's something. We can agree on that.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Jamie Weinstein, James Hohmann, thank you both. Heather.
Thank you.